So this country just granted citizenship to all descendants of the slave trade. So you want to stay tuned to figure out which country we are talking about. What's going on, world? Welcome to T3 and Me. My name is Ambassador Tim Ford Jr. And today I'm here with my beautiful wife, Mrs. Siobhan Ford. Karibu, Mrs. Ford.
Asante.
Yes, welcome, y'all. And like we said in the beginning, today we want to talk about a particular African country who's granting citizenship to all descendants of the slave trade. But first, before we go into who this country is, we want to give you guys a little bit of the backstory and the history of how we got to the point of being in the slave trade anyway. 400 years ago, some of our people were actually sent from the east side of Africa and the west side of Africa and dispersed all around the entire world. So now we have different countries that are over here on the continent who are actually welcoming our people back home and granting them citizenship and allowing them to come back home. Many of you guys have seen what Ghana did in 2019 with the year of return, but now even recently, Ghana has granted citizenship to over 500 different slave descendants who decided to come back home and build in Ghana.
Yeah, so as he mentioned earlier about the history of the slave trade, a lot of people know about what happened on the west coast of Africa. They know about Ghana, the Ivory Coast, the slave coast, and all these different countries along the western route of Africa. But a lot of people they don't really teach us in school, and a lot of people haven't really digged into the slave trade that went on the eastern side of Africa as well as in the central part of Africa, really all throughout Africa. Mostly the western side of Africa is highlighted. But the slave trade has been going on for so many, even before like we all, pinpoint the 400 years where we're talking about like the transatlantic slave trade. But even before then, you had the slave trade on the eastern side of Africa, which was the first so-called slave trade. And I will argue that that never even really stopped. It just kind of transitioned into the western side of Africa's slave trade. But our people were taken and they were dispersed to literally to the four corners of the world, to the Americas, to the Arabias, the Middle East, eastern side of the world. So our people are literally scattered everywhere to every corner of the world. So it's high time, especially in light of everything that's going on, it's high time that our people, and by people I mean our people who are here on the continent, who are in governmental positions, to begin to sort of reach out and begin the process of reconciliation, of restoring the descendants of the enslaved back to their ancestral homeland. So without further ado, this country is actually Benin. Benin is a smaller country on the western coast of Africa, and it actually just granted citizenship to slave descendants as they kind of want to begin the process of reconciliation and facing their historical role in the slave trade. So, as many of you know, and we're going to do a video on this talking about the history of the slave trade, because although some of our peoples were involved in the slave trade, some of the African people were involved in the slave trade. A lot of the people who were involved in the slave trade, who are our people, were actually forced and coerced into participating in the slave trade. Not everyone, but a good majority of them. Yeah. But we're going to have to do another video on that to dive a little bit deeper into that. So I just want to read a little snippet from this article, because this actually happened this year, just a few months ago, where they actually rolled this out. And so actually, there's actually some African Americans who are actually taking advantage of this new law in Benin that grants citizenship to those who can trace their lineage to the slave trade. So from what I understand, the qualifications for you to be able to get citizenship in Benin is one of three ways. One, you submit a DNA test where it traces your lineage back to some part of sub-Saharan Africa. Not even just Benin, just literally like if you're a descendant of a slave, some part of Africa geographically, then you can qualify for citizenship. Also, they're also accepting family documents, historical lineage documents, any of those sorts of things where there's where you can trace it genealogically back to sub-Saharan Africa. Then they're actually granting you citizenship. So this new law, which was actually initiated by President Patrice Talon, who is the current president of Benin, he's actually been in office since 2016. So he actually saw what happened with Ghana in the year of return and some of the other countries, mostly on the western side of Africa. So this law, and this is part of a broader effort by Benin to reckon with its own historical role in the slave trade. So this law is open to all people over the age of 18 who do not already hold other African citizenship. It can provide proof that an ancestor was deported via the slave trade from anywhere in sub-Saharan Africa. They accept DNA tests, authenticated testimonies, and family records. Going back to Benin's historical role in the slave trade, so there was actually a famous city called Owita, a coastal town called Owita, which was one of Africa's most active slave trading ports. And there's a historical monument there called the Tree of Forgetfulness, which is where enslaved people were said to be symbolically forced to forget their past lives, almost basically like a door of no return, just like in some other parts of Africa.
So at this tree, they were sort of like, I guess, beaten and tortured to renounce something.
Yeah, so historically, like when they have these doors of no returns, or this one they call it the tree of forgetfulness, essentially they wanted you to, when they shipped you off, they wanted us to forget our lineage, forget about Africa, forget about coming back, forget everything. Like, this is it. This is your new destiny. This is what they wanted for us. So by us coming back, we're kind of undoing the curses of the past and the things that happened to us historically.
So with coming over here and actually trying to get citizenship and gaining citizenship in these countries over here in Africa, it's important that we also remember that there are still rules and laws in place in order for you to come over here and do business successfully. Like, even though they're opening up their doors, that don't mean you just come over here and you just jump into the economy and not have licenses and follow the rules that's put in place. So if you do decide to go to Benin and open up a business, they have certain structures in place for you to follow the rules in order to get your business set up legally. And the agency that they have in place is the Agency for the Promotion of Investment and Exports, and it's called APX. And what you have to do in order to start a business is open up a bank account and deposit the share capital into that account over in Benin. And also, you have to register the company with the Apex organization. And also, you have to obtain a unique tax identification number with the country. And lastly, you have to obtain all your licenses and permits in order to conduct business over in that country. And just like all the other countries, many of these countries have so many opportunities within so many different sectors for you to be able to invest in. So the pricing will be different depending on which sector you decide to dive into and build in. And a lot of the different sectors that have tremendous opportunity is, first, I want to start with agriculture. Benin has opportunities for investment in cotton, cashew, pineapple, shea nuts, and soybeans. And the next one is manufacturing. Benin has opportunities for investment in light engineering, cotton textiles, apparels, agro processing industries, wood product industries, phones and computers assembly industries, pharmaceutical industries, and electrical vehicles industries. And tourism. Tourism, it speaks for itself. A lot of our people are trying to come back home and be in a position to see what we've been through and see what we are coming back to. So if you can come over here and put yourself in a position, open up a tourism company to help people go on the tours of where we've been and where we came from, then you can actually position yourself to do something good over here on the continent of Africa. The next one is housing and construction. Benin has opportunities for investment in housing and construction because the median age for the entire continent is 19 years old right now. So that means a lot of people are actually growing up and stepping into the economy and starting to build families and starting to spend money in different sectors. So if you come over here and provide housing for not only the descendants who are deciding to return, but also the local people who are in these different countries, you can position yourself to help a lot of people and generate income for you and your family.
Yes, and when you go to these African countries, just a word of wisdom and advice from one sister to my brothers and sisters, my brother or sister, whoever you are. When you go to these different African countries, whether it be Benin, Ghana, Tanzania, wherever you decide that you want to repatriate to, um, go and represent us well. And he laughed, but it's something that's so serious. We were just talking about it earlier because you don't want to give the African American community a bad name in these different countries. You don't want to go there and not understand the culture. So if you're planning to repatriate to Africa, make sure that you're learning the culture of the particular country you're going to.
Yeah.
Start to learn the language. Just, you don't have to go and be fluent, because that's not going to happen. Let's just be realistic. Like, you're not going to be fluent. You have to like get immersed into the culture. And a lot of times, the language that you may learn online or in school is different from what is actually spoken on the ground.
Yeah.
And maybe cut up a little, just like we have our street lingo and our ebonics, which is different from, like classical English or, the English you will learn in school. So they have their own form of their language in a lot of these different countries. There are different traditions, the way they cook, the way they operate. A lot of the ways that in which we treat each other and our moral standing with each other, how we treat each other, is not the way they operate in African countries. They tend to resolve conflict faster and in a different way than we do. They tend to express their discomfort in a different way. So you want to make sure that you're not going and being disrespectful, and also just being respectful of their rules as far as their governmental rules, whatever their processes are for residency, for citizenship, for setting up a business, making sure that you understand it to the best of your ability, and that you adhere to it, and that you're not, going online to try to tarnish the country or slander the country, or essentially, tell them what they need to do. There's always a way. There's always a way. I'm not gonna say don't advocate for that, because of course that's what we're advocating for our people to be able to come home and to be granted citizenship as a descendant of the slave, as a daughter or son of the continent of Africa. But there's a way in which to do it to where we're being respectful and we're also being heard.
Yeah.
So just make sure that you're integrating properly, and that you're not in getting online, especially getting online and marking yourselves for we don't know what's going to happen in the future. Just make sure you're protecting yourself.
Like she mentioned, so many of our people come here, and it's not even intentional sometimes, and sometimes it is, but our people come here and turn into the very people who put us in the situation we in. They begin to sort of try to seem dominant because they come from America. Like, oh, I'm from America. You should lay out the red carpet for me. You should, open up this door. I shouldn't have to go through this process because I'm American. And no, like they have processes in place to protect themselves, to protect the country, to protect the citizens, to really do things in decency and order. And we are so used to being handed things as a people. If we cry, if we whine, people will just open up the door for us. But that's not how it goes over here on the continent. There's still a process. There's still a way that things must be conducted. So it's important that you respect that and you do what needs to be done in order to keep yourself in good standing, because it's easy to mess up your reputation over here. Like one wrong move and the neighborhood knows what's going on. Everybody will know, and the word will get out very fast that you're someone that people need to stay away from. So make sure that you're moving properly. And when you're going to these countries, like you said, learn the things, learn the language, learn the lingo, so that when you do want to talk to the people and connect with the people, you are able to communicate with them and not just speak in broken English where they can barely understand you and you guys can barely understand each other.
Yeah, a lot of some of the mishaps or the relationship breakdowns I see between continental Africans and descendants of the enslaved are literally language barriers.
Yeah.
Like you'll be talking to someone in English and they know English, but remember English is not their first language. So you could think that they have the clear understanding of what you're saying because they said yes and they understood and they know English, but they're thinking this completely different. Like we've had that happen to us so many times.
Yeah.
And we had to realize like this is literally a language and a cultural barrier, and it's something that we have to understand. So there's a lot of understanding that has to go into repatriating, making sure that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's, that you know how you're going to support yourself. Because in a lot of these countries, they don't have traditional forms of employment. They don't have government assistance. So you literally get it by the sweat of your brow. You get it how you live. So make sure that you can support yourself, whether you have online work or you have a business, as you mentioned, that you're going to be opening up. We always recommend people to have their own business because unless you're retired, you're going to have some form, some means to have some meaningful income coming in each month to support yourself and your family. So there's a lot of things to think about, guys. Like this is an amazing time to be alive. There's a lot of things that are going on the continent that are beneficial to us. These countries are understanding the need for reconciliation and to reach out to the diaspora, to the sixth region, to begin to incorporate us back into to our homelands. So definitely take advantage of it, but just be mindful that you're taking advantage of it in a proper manner.
And other investment opportunities you can look into is digital services, mining resources. Benin has opportunities for investment in iron, gold, phosphate, diamond, marble, and gravel. So all of these different minerals are in this one Western country over there. So if you go over there and you get the materials to go and get you a mine and you get the equipment to go and mine and dig these things up and process it, that's a great opportunity for some people. And last but not least is black gold mining. So they actually have black gold over there. So I don't know if it's really tapped into yet. People know about it on the grand scale, but that's another one of the industries that you can look into in order to create something for yourself. So it's important when we go to these countries, we have the mindset of trying to produce something. Don't go over there trying to stick your hand out and ask something from the government. They've already given you what they need to give you, and that's citizenship. So if you have citizenship and you are able to go over there and plant yourself in a position to be able to generate something for your family, please go over there and produce something. Don't have a handout and try and say, hey, how can help me? It's okay to ask for help. I don't want to get that wrong, but don't be over there trying to leech off of the government. Build something, put something in place, get into one of the industries and create something. And some people who will be starting businesses for the first time, make sure you're doing extensive research. Make sure you're understanding the culture. Make sure you're understanding export, import, everything you need in order to make that business run successfully. Because it's not just put your money in there and watch it grow. No, you have to learn things. You have to do extensive research. You have to learn the ins and outs of how things operate in different industries so that you can stay in it long term and you can get a return on your investment. So many of our people are stepping into this realm of entrepreneurship and trying to break generational curses of working for people for low wages and trying to build something for themselves. So it takes us actually getting in their gutter and learning the tough things and going through the tough phase. And don't think it'll just be 1 year or 1 month. When you get into the business, it'll take off. Sometimes it happens now. Some people get lucky and blessed and it takes off within like a few weeks, few months. But sometimes you got to get your skin in the game, get some elbow grease and build something from the ground up. So be ready to work if you go to this country and try to build something. Don't expect it to happen overnight and it just boom, it happens. Since we're here, got to show y'all some of the products real quick. This natural body baby. Natural body. Yeah. Natural product. Natural product. Yeah. Natural product. Yeah. Say. Yeah. Come closer. Come. Busy beachy.
Yeah, and let's take our lessons from Liberia, the things that they did right and the things that they did wrong, so that we can be more successful and we can learn from others who've paved the way, who've gone before us, who've laid the foundation of what we should do when we're repatriating. And the key is to successfully integrate into the community in all aspects, adopt their ways, their culture, their language. Not saying you have to get rid of yourself, because at the end of the day, we're all a product of our environment. We're born and raised in the West. Most of us who watch this channel are African Americans. So we'll always have that in the back of our mind, but we can use the tools and the skill sets and the things we learned in the West to apply it to the continent, to help to rebuild the continent, to invest into the continent, and to ultimately return to the continent.
So if you made it to the end of the video, you're actually thinking about coming over to Africa and trying to build something over here. So if you need help with that, if you're trying to figure out how you can make a smooth transition for you and your family, we offer 1 hour repatriation consultations for those who are interested. I will sit on the phone with you for 1 hour and answer all the questions that you have in regards to actually moving over here to the continent. And if I don't have any specific information, I would connect you and point you into the right direction so that you can get connected and do what you need to do for whichever country you want to go to. So if you're also trying to get your healing done and figure out how you can heal from any ailment that you've been diagnosed with, my wife offers all natural consultations for those who are interested. She will sit on the phone with you for 1 hour and help you with any ailment that you've been dealing with so that you can come up with a natural remedy in order to overcome that ailment. So listen, guys, it's our time. We have tremendous opportunity. We have another African country that's offering us citizenship as a people. So it's time for us to take advantage of these opportunities. We don't have to continue to stay in the West and deal with the mess that we've been dealing with for the past 400, 500 years. It's time for us to step up. It's time for us to build. It's time for us to come back home and connect with our people and get connected to our resources so that we can generate wealth on the continent of Africa. So if you made it to the end of the video, we thank you for your attention. We hope this is able to bring you some value and you was able to learn something about one of the African countries over here. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so you can stay tuned to the journey.
Yeah, no excuses. Get it done in 2025, y'all.
That's it. Get the work done. Y'all stay safe out there. Shalom.